be sure to check out Rob Plays. There you can hang out with me while we play video games and talk about life stuff. So due to the Netflix announcement of a She-Hulk series after the completion of The Defenders, what I want to do here is have a discussion about She-Hulk. And what I'm hoping is that at the end of all this, you'll have a strong understanding of her character, as well as how she's evolved over the years. So Jennifer Walters first appeared in Savage She-Hulk issue number 1 in 1980 and was created by Stan Lee and John Buscema. However, unlike most of Marvel's lineup, She-Hulk did not originate with the comic book landscape. Instead, she came as a result of the television show The Incredible Hulk, starring Bill Bixby as Banner and Lou Ferrigno as the Hulk. In an article by Britain's Sunday Times titled 70 Things You Didn't Know About Marvel, the creation of She-Hulk originated in the idea that Universal Television had planned to make a spin-off of the Hulk using a female version of the character, looking to both boost the popularity of the show and secure the rights themselves. However, with Marvel getting wind of this, Stan Lee was tasked with writing the first issue of She-Hulk, securing the rights in the process, and forcing Universal to go forward without She-Hulk on the television show. That said, in her original appearance as it was written by Stan Lee, Jennifer Walters is the daughter of a man named Sheriff Walters and a woman named Elaine Banner Walters, but is also the cousin of Bruce Banner. Growing up together, Bruce and Jennifer developed a brother and sister-like bond, but once they reached adulthood, they eventually went their separate ways as both pursued different careers in life. While Banner would find himself immersed in the realm of physics, Jennifer attended the UCLA School of Law, where she became one of the top legal scholars, earning her master's degree in Harvard Law School and becoming a lawyer. Now, because this era in Marvel Comics saw Banner's identity as the Hulk kept secret from the larger Marvel landscape, after reconnecting with Jennifer following their time apart, the closeness between the two was immediately established, with Banner sharing the secret of being the Incredible Hulk. Wanting to talk more in private, they had decided to leave her office so no one could overhear their conversation. However, with Jennifer's role as an attorney seeing her coming into conflict with various entities in the criminal underworld, unbeknownst to herself or Banner, the two were actually being tailed by the crime boss Nicholas Trask, who had once been an enemy of Jennifer's father and one of her current clients. Hiring two hitmen to assassinate Jennifer in an effort to end her investigations into the criminal acts, during their journey, the hitmen had shot Jennifer, seriously wounding her in the process. Acting quickly due to realizing that medical attention would arrive too late, Banner was able to escape, taking Jennifer to a doctor's office himself. To this end, realizing that Jennifer had lost too much blood from the gunshot wound and needed a blood transfusion, since there were no other donors of her type immediately available, Banner used his own gamma-irradiated blood for the transfusion. As a result, once the process was complete and Jennifer was in stable condition, Banner had immediately left under the belief that Jennifer would be safe, during which time Trask's hitmen returned, posing as doctors in an effort to ensure Jennifer's death. Discovering her room and attempting to carry out the assassination, because a whole transformation occurs in a state of heightened adrenaline as a result of anger, with her life in jeopardy, fear overtook Jennifer, leading to her first transformation, catching the men by surprise, chasing them out of the hospital, and forcing a confession in front of the police. Following this, and with her adrenaline returning to normal states, Jennifer returned to her normal form, traveled back to the hospital, and re-entered her bed, leaving the hospital staff unaware of her transformation, during which time she vowed that the Hulk persona would return to solve any of the problems Jennifer Walters could not. Now, following this initial introduction, because the Incredible Hulk had been such a popular character, especially among college students, with the early 1980s seeing the rise of second-wave feminism, Jennifer's time as She-Hulk saw a multitude of changes. In the early days of her solo publications, much like Bruce Banner, Jennifer was unable to control the She-Hulk transformation and at one point even had mental blocks placed on herself to keep the transformation from happening. While this standard was popular in that She-Hulk had her own adventures but was seemingly identical to the Incredible Hulk, albeit weaker in terms of strength, the demands of second-wave feminism led to Marvel offering small changes to her character, allowing She-Hulk to step into her own while maintaining the root of her popularity in the Incredible Hulk concept. Coming under the control of David Anthony Kraft with issue number 2, because Kraft's time as writer of The Defenders in the 1970s focused on themes like temptations of power, the Cold War, and the subsequent nuclear arms race, these themes were combined with his experience creating children's stories, allowing for a soft transition to She-Hulk being elevated to a more serious character while maintaining some of the lighthearted standards created by Stan Lee. To this end, the early issues of Kraft's run focused heavily on the difficulty of Jennifer balancing her life as the heroic She-Hulk with her life as a lawyer, where many of the stories went hand in hand, allowing her to investigate criminals in her Hulk form while bringing them to justice as a lawyer. On the whole, one of the major issues faced by prospective female readers was that She-Hulk was essentially a copy of Bruce. Looking to eliminate this major obstacle and allow Jennifer to move away from the shadow of her cousin, Kraft initiated an unofficial 4-part series with issues 9 through 12, focusing on Jennifer developing a blood disease. Contacting Reed Richards, who in turn introduced her to a man named Daniel Ridge, Daniel's experience with blood diseases led to a consultation with Michael Morbius, allowing Jennifer to make contact in an effort to seek a cure. Now to sidetrack here, as a classic Spider-Man villain known more through appearance than by his name, Michael Morbius is likely the most knowledgeable person in the world when it comes to blood diseases due to the fact that he himself had suffered from a condition of this sort and was transformed into a vampire during his attempts to find a cure. As a result, his survival hinged on his ability to locate and consume blood, requiring that he analyze all types, including those most conducive to his survival. Officially taking place in issues 11 and 12, with She-Hulk on the verge of dying from her disease, the intervention of Daniel Ridge and Michael Morbius came with a serum designed for Morbius himself, but given to Jennifer, eliminating the issue of anger-based transformations and allowing her to shift between the She-Hulk and Jennifer Walter identities at will, albeit with physical pain. Furthermore, where Jennifer herself had viewed the She-Hulk persona as something akin to a curse, with the newfound control over her transformations, Kraft established that because Jennifer did not suffer from the same childhood trauma and abuse as her cousin Banner, instead of shunning or living in fear of the Hulk form, Jennifer actually embraced it, allowing her to view the She-Hulk persona as a confidence builder. As a result, and throughout Kraft's run following her cure, the idea of a dual persona began to take a back seat, with Jennifer preferring to remain in the She-Hulk form instead of being Jennifer Walters. Now, where Kraft's run lasted for 25 issues between 1980 and 1982, because Jim Shooter had been elevated to the position of editor-in-chief, where he had maintained such a strict editorial control over Marvel Comics, enforcing deadlines and maintaining continuity, his actions alienated a number of longtime writers and artists who vacated their positions, turning to competitors like DC or other creator-owned publication houses. At the same time, with Savage She-Hulk failing to achieve the same financial success as The Incredible Hulk and other Marvel-related titles, in addition to David Anthony Kraft departing as writer, the Savage She-Hulk line was cancelled, leading to subsequent appearances in Avengers. Now to sidetrack for a second, because the Avengers team was a mishmash of heroes who were either unable to carry their own titles, or being exposed to the reader base in an effort to gauge fan reception, or had simply always been a part of the team, with She-Hulk being unable to maintain her own title, it actually made perfect sense to roll her over onto the Avengers. In addition to this, because this time period saw Jim Shooter launching the original Secret Wars event and the introduction of the original Beyonder, where the story had a multitude of themes coming out of its conclusion, including the breakup of Kitty Pryde and Colossus, Spider-Man gaining the Venom symbiote, and the introduction of Julia Carpenter as Spider-Woman, one of the major developments came in the form of Marvel's experimentation on replacing Ben Grimm as the muscle of the Fantastic Four. Introducing She-Hulk into their ranks, in truth, this time period of her career saw massive success for her character due to the team still standing as Marvel's first family. With John Byrne in control of the title during his legendary run between issues 232 and 295, while his career following the end of the Fantastic run was focused on developing Superman for DC Comics and the post-Crisis on Infinite Earths continuity, the popularity of She-Hulk and Byrne's return to Marvel led to a second volume in 1989 titled The Sensational SheHulk. Running for 60 issues with John Byrne involved in issues 1 through 8 and 31 through 50, unlike her previous depictions which were more serious minus a couple of exceptions, Byrne's time on the title was almost completely comedic, satirizing comic books and introducing She-Hulk's awareness that she was actually a comic book character. As an example, in the first 8 issues, Jennifer became an assistant district attorney and began working for New York City District Attorney Blake Tower. During this time, she had met Louise Mason, formerly the Golden Age superheroine the Blonde Phantom, and had begun a long series of unusual encounters where she battled Dr. Bong, Zenmu the Titan, Nick St. Christopher, and Spragg the Living Comet. However, the fourth wall element of her character came into play when She-Hulk discovered that Louise Mason had manipulated Tower into hiring Jennifer so that Mason might again star in a comic book and thus avoid dying of old age due to the fact that comic book characters never age. As a result, She-Hulk had vacated her position, taking up work as a lawyer with Heroes for Hire, eventually leading to a relationship between herself and Luke Cage. Now, in addition to her own solo adventures and breaking the fourth wall on the front cover of the Sensational SheHulk comics, in an effort to keep her exposed to the larger Marvel reader base, John Byrne orchestrated a number of guest appearances and crossovers, including the 2-issue limited series She-Hulk Ceremony, written by Dwayne McDuffie and focusing on the revelation of Jennifer's affections for Wyatt Wingfoot, a close friend of the Fantastic Four, Black Panther, and the Inhumans. Now, where Byrne's run ended with issue number 60 in 1994 and the cancellation of the Sensational SheHulk title, between 1994 and 2002, She-Hulk herself continued to make backup one-shot and team appearances in Franklin Richards' Fantastic Force by Tom Brevoort, Doc Samson's 1996 miniseries by Dan Slott, Heroes for Hire by John Ostrander, and The Avengers. However, with writer Joe Quesada becoming editor-in-chief in 2000, because his mindset was similar to Jim Shooter in that he preferred emphasis on eliminating unsuccessful characters and titles and introducing new content, as part of the lead-up to House of M, Decimation, and Civil War, Marvel launched Avengers Disassembled under writer Brian Michael Bendis. Centering on the Scarlet Witch becoming convinced that the Avengers had kidnapped her non-existent children, Wanda had waged war against them, using various members to her own ends, including manipulating Tony Stark's mind to appear drunk in front of the United Nations, leading to a conflict at Avengers Mansion. During this time, She-Hulk was hexed by Wanda, sending Jennifer into a rage almost identical to Banner's Savage Hulk form, where she rampaged throughout the streets. While the rest of the Avengers Disassembled would see Wanda manifesting a Kree armada, the death of Hawkeye, and the Avengers disbanding, because She-Hulk had been subdued as part of the events leading up to the discovery that Wanda was behind the attacks, following the conclusion of both Avengers Disassembled and House of M, the She-Hulk series was relaunched as Volume 2 under writer Dan Slott as part of the lead-up to Civil War. To sidetrack here, because the main Civil War conflict existed as a battle centering on the opposing positions of Captain America and Iron Man, with both Thor and Banner having been removed from the landscape in Thor Disassembled and Planet Hulk respectively, while Jennifer was not as strong as her cousin, her physical strength was enough to turn the tide if used in the beginning of the story. In an effort to solve this equation, both Dan Slott and Mark Millar looked to the pages of She-Hulk's second series and Civil War itself to establish that Jennifer's rampage had driven her to remain in her human form out of guilt over her actions. As a result, she had no major role within the battles of Civil War and instead elected to register while simultaneously operating as a lawyer, providing counsel for heroes and villains looking for a legal means to avoid registration. That said, where she did have a role in the final conflict of Civil War itself, on the whole, She-Hulk had never quite achieved a high level of success. Instead, her position within Marvel stood in more of a supportive capacity, appearing in World War Hulk, Secret Invasion, Dark Reign, and as part of the Lady Liberators, an all-female team composed of Jennifer Walters as leader alongside Susan Storm, Valkyrie, Thundra, Spider-Woman, Tigra, Black Widow, and Hellcat. Furthermore, with Jonathan Hickman writing the Fantastic Four and forming the Future Foundation as an organization designed to serve the betterment of mankind, the idea of She-Hulk existing as a member of the team was revisited when she alongside Peter Parker were added to the roster in a support capacity. In addition to this, where she was part of the Incredible Hulks, the MIA, and Fearsome Four storylines, in 2014 as part of the Marvel Now event, the She-Hulk title was launched as a third volume under the writing of Charles Soule. Receiving critical acclaim for both the story and art, with some placing it on the same level as Matt Fraction's run on Hawkeye, fan reception to Charles Soule's She-Hulk was huge in that the story centered on Jennifer as a strong, confident woman and capable lawyer, an aspect of Soule's storytelling that resonated with fans. While the series was cancelled after only 12 issues, in a post on his personal blog, Charles Soule had stated that with sales functioning as one half of the reason, Marvel had also been leading up to Secret Wars, which resulted in the axing of all existing solo series, whether that be abruptly as was the case with She-Hulk, or a gradual phase-out in the form of Last Days, which was seen in the Loki and Ms. Marvel series. Culminating in the destruction of the multiverse during Hickman's run on Avengers and New Avengers, with the start of Secret Wars and the launch of its tie-ins, writers G. Willow Wilson and Marguerite Bennett were brought on board to launch A-Force, centering on an all-female team not unlike the Lady Liberators but composed of some of Marvel's top-tier heroines, including Dazzler, America Chavez, Medusa, and Crystal of the Inhumans. A-Force was critically praised for its storytelling and art, providing readers with a team that didn't feel like a ploy towards feminism and instead provided strong women playing strong roles. Leading to the launch of all new All Different Marvel, because the A-Force miniseries was so well received, when the Marvel Prime Universe was created by Reed Richards, Molecule Man, and Franklin Richards, A-Force returned with a similar roster than what was found within Secret Wars. Consisting of She-Hulk, Carol Danvers, Medusa, Singularity, Dazzler, and Nico Minoru, with it being released in January of 2016 with G. Willow Wilson returning as writer, much like the team from Secret Wars, A-Force functioned as a woman-centric group, facing threats from both within the Earth and beyond. Now while we are only 5 issues in and I will have a video on the team proper, on the whole, A-Force has maintained the popularity of its original miniseries, providing a combination of everyday struggles and heroics, giving readers a view of the team's members on a personal level, developing them further than the stories found within their own past comics. With that being said, we're going to bring this video to an end, and let me know how you guys feel about She-Hulk. I'm curious, and I will catch you guys later. Peace.